Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to my podcast, Spiritual Talk with Christy Godwin and Friends. I'm so glad to have you here today. We're, we're talking today about twin flames versus soulmates. I get a lot of these questions when I'm reading people, and people trying to discern if they've had a soulmate connection with someone or a twin flame connection with someone. And so I taught about it in a program that I have called the Divine Collective. And it was so popular, I thought, you know what, let me make a podcast about it. If you're interested in Divine Collective, a side note is it is a subscription program. We meet several times a month where we have a teaching, um, have a learning session where we play with cards and people learn cards. And then we have a group reading. And those are three basics. We sometimes have other things in addition to it, but those are the three basic meetings we have every month. If you're interested in that, check it out, Christy Godwin Psychic Medium under the tab Divine Collective. But today, we're going to talk about twin flames and soulmates. So I want you to think about the difference whenever you say twin. What do you think of when you say twin? It's two. So think of your soul being broken into two parts. It is a twin. A lot of times people use a twin flame and soulmate terminology interchangeably. That is not the case. They have different components to each of their relationships. Now, though I told you this twin flame is broken into two, you have the twin. Think of this soulmates. Soulmate is a deep soul connection with an individual that helps us grow both spiritually and emotionally. A soulmate can be a romantic relationship, it can be platonic, it can even be a family relationship. These relationships feel natural and loving and supportive. Now, there are times where I have people and this is where I always tell people follow the energy, follow the energy. That's what I teach in my classes. Or if you come to me for mentorship, talking about following the energy, don't just read it at surface level because you can feel like you're getting one thing at surface level. But when you dig deep into the energy, that's where you start getting all of your information. People can sometimes be confused whenever, because you will have just a natural inclination and be attracted or connected to someone who you've shared a past life with. Your soul will recognize that soul from another past life and you won't instantly feel that connection. A soulmate relationship is a little bit different. There are different types of soulmate relationships. You can have romantic soulmate relationships. Those are just a deep, loving connection in soulmate relationships. And they're so beautiful. Whenever I read someone that is stepping up from the other side and I have their former partner in front of me, I feel like it's a double-edged sword in the fact that they just had such a beautiful connection. It's very difficult if you lose your soulmate, romantic soulmate, to continue through to other relationships unless you can learn to not compare because there is no comparison. If you've had that romantic soulmate relationship, it's unmistakable. And can people move on? Yes. Well, I should say you never move on from grief. You just move through it. But you can develop other relationships if you actually lose your soulmate, but you just have to learn to not compare. Honor the current relationship you're in for what it is instead of comparing it to the other one. Then let's talk about karmic soulmates. They teach us life lessons through challenging experiences. Typically, karmic relationships or soulmates, those relationships will just have a certain span in our lifetime. We'll learn that lesson and then we'll move on. But when you move on from those soulmate karmic relationships, you don't usually do it with animosity. So, just drift apart or something happens that is very natural and flowing to the ending of that relationship. And you maybe think about that person a couple of years later. You're like, oh, whatever happened to them? But it's not like you're thinking vengeful thoughts or animosity towards them. So that's a karmic soulmate. Let's think about companion soulmates. I have several of these in my life. Those close friends or partners who provide mutual support. I have known these people in other lives. I do know that. They have partnered with me in this lifetime and we teach each other. Those are close friends that I know people usually think of soulmates as being romantic soulmates, which we did cover that. but they can just be companions. They can be our friends. Now, there can also be something, this terminology is not well known, what I'm about to tell you. And so when you hear it, it can be kind of ambiguous because it's not very well known. But twin soulmates, two individuals that are deeply aligned in a mission. They have incarnated on this earth with a purpose of a certain mission, and they find each other, spirit makes sure they find each other to partner and charge forward completely. Now, I don't currently have any of these relationships on in my life. Do I have people that I'm deeply aligned with on certain things that we're doing together? Absolutely. But there is not someone I'm currently so aligned with that we are 100% pushing forward with the exact same agenda. So take a moment and sit back, look at the relationships in your life. Can you think of any romantic soulmates, karmic soulmate relationships you have, companion soulmates, twin soulmates? Can you identify any of these? It was fun. And the Divine Collective, when we were doing this, we were able to ask some of those questions and kind of walk through some of those relationships, which is kind of fun to be able to play around with that. Now let's move on. That was the basis of what soulmates are. Now let's move on to the twin flame. Twin flame is a bit trickier. Again, I want you to go back to what I had said earlier in the podcast that twin flame, you think of one soul that is split into two. The twin flame is believed to be the other half of one soul split into two bodies. This connection is deeply intense and transformative. Twin flames tend to mirror each other's strengths and wounds, which leads to tremendous growth. Whenever people come to me that I want to find my twin flame, I want to find, be careful what you wish for. These relationships are so transformative. And when something is so transformative, it can have a explosive component to it. The characteristics of twin flames is there is a deep connection and you have a magnetic pull to this relationship. There is a deep emotional, mental, and spiritual mirroring. Often involves a separation reunion. So what happens is you'll get together and you'll have this explosive moment, and then you'll both say, you have to take a break to heal. And then you have a reunion. You take a break to heal, and then you have a reunion. The catalyst for this is deep healing and self-awareness. Now, I want you to think about those were the characteristics for twin flames, right? Instant recognition with this magnetic pull. You have a deep emotional, mental, and spiritual mirroring. It often involves separation and reunion cycles. So now, what makes that different than a soulmate? A soulmate is more of a natural, loving, and supportive feeling, whereas a twin flame can be a little bit more. The best word I can think of is antagonistic. And it's not that these people are purposely antagonizing us, but they are our mirror image. They are mirroring back to us our strengths and our wounds. And when you have someone that's constantly mirroring back your wounds to you, it can feel antagonistic. It's not purposely antagonistic, but it can feel that way. Now, get this question a lot. Can you have more than one twin flame? You cannot. Think about what I said earlier, twin. One soul broken into twin pieces, 1 and 2. So there's you and then the twin. Do you incarnate with your twin flame every single time? You do not. Also, you don't always meet your twin flame, even if you are incarnated. And that was something that we kind of played around with in the Divine Collective, is going through asking the question, like, who has their twin flame currently on planet with them? Now, you can only have one twin flame, but you can have multiple soulmates. Soulmates can support different aspects of our journey. I know I have some friends that have been with me for 30 plus years and how we have really supported and grown with each other. You can tell that is definitely a soulmate connection. And some people can mistake deep soulmate connections for twin flames because of their intensity. However, with twin flames, you often experience separation and reunion cycles, separation and reunion, as the growth and healing is required before each union or the coming back together. So, twin flames, you only have one. Soulmates, you can have multiple. They can be romantic, they can be friends, they can be family. So, you can have multiple soulmates, but only one twin flame. Now, let's talk about the differences between the key differences between twin flames and soulmates. The soulmate connection is typically harmonious and supportive, whereas the twin flame is intense and transformational. Think about a soulmate is you are there to help each other grow, but it's more of a gentle, swaying, dancing type energy with a soulmate. Though it can be transformational and you can have some hiccups in those relationships because it's hard to have any relationship without some kind of hiccup. There is a difference in the intensity and the transformation that happens when you have that twin flame connection. The purpose of a soulmate is growth and companionship, whereas the purpose of a twin flame is self-awareness and ascension. Again, you have that twin flame who is mirroring back to you your wounds and your strengths. That is self-awareness slapping you in the face. And that's the intensity of it because it is hard to constantly be self-evaluating, self-aware, and being on the ascension process. Though, yes, there is some growth and companionship with the soulmate, it is not as explosive and it's a much more gentler climb. Now, with the soulmate relationship, are there challenges? Of course. There's always going to be challenges in any kind of relationship, soulmate or otherwise, but they're gentler and they're not quite as triggering. The challenges with the soulmate tends to be a lot more triggering because they are just really activating our deep wounds. Why are they activating our deep wounds? To heal them. If you're not aware of these deep wounds, then they can't be healed. Now, there is so much free will involved on this earth. You can be in a relationship with a twin flame and you are maneuvering at a higher octave than the other half of your soul. And so that can be also very triggering is when you are healing, but the other part of you is not healing. Free will. Both sides of you has their own free will to walk on this planet. And just because you are healing doesn't mean the other part of you has to be. And it is free will. You cannot make someone do something they don't want to do, even if it's the other part of your soul. The other part of your soul still has free will. Y'all will reconnect on the other side when you both transition over and reemerge or reconvene with your higher self. With a soulmate, separation is less likely. Does it happen? Absolutely, but it's less likely. Separation with the twin flame is very common because you have this explosive triggering moment that unveils some major healing that needs to be done. So then you find yourself separating to make sure that healing happens. The soulmate relationship does not have to be romantic. It can be. But it can be any relationship. It doesn't need to be romantic. The twin flame is typically it's often, I wouldn't say typically, it's often romantic, but not always. It's very difficult to tell the difference, and I want you to think about the major differences I have talked about. Twin flame, intense, kind of explosive. Whereas a soulmate, you might just have an argument with. There's a certain amount of intensity and explosiveness that comes along with a twin flame. Now, when I say explosive, I mean there's a lot of energy. I do not want anyone to excuse any kind of abusive or inappropriate behavior because you think you're in this twin flame explosive relationship. Absolutely not. No, I'm talking a lot of energy that moves you to self evaluate. There is no excuse ever for any kind of abusive relationship. Do not try to excuse it away. Do not try to put labels on it to make it sound better. There's no excuse for it. Now, let's talk about the role of soul contracts. Soulmates and twin flames are part of a prearranged soul contract. So when people come to me and where can I find my twin flame? I want to find my twin flame. I want to find my soulmate. One thing, we weren't always meant to meet them in every lifetime. Also, live your life and allow it to play out in a manner that the energies can bring what's supposed to be in your life your way. If you are constantly searching and scrambling and in search of, you're going to find yourself not being able to really activate the beautiful positive energies that the universe is trying to bring our way because you're ignoring them, because you're not seeing them. You're looking for something else. I hope that makes sense. Know that the role of these relationships serves higher purposes in our soul's journey. Acknowledge that. Acknowledge their beautiful energy that they're bringing into our life, even if it's difficult sometimes. Each of these relationship types helps us evolve spiritually and in different ways. We can be just when we think we've learned, of course, I say we never stop growing until we actually transition to the other side. But just when we think we're finished with a lesson, Spirit is like, are you though? Well, let's just try it to a higher octave. So you can have frequently more than one soulmate teaching you the same lesson because lessons will typically be learned in multiple different ways. Let's just say, something I've struggled with a lot in my life is being able to stand up for myself and my own needs and wants. Now, I'm very good at defending other people and standing up for them. But when it comes to voicing my own needs and wants, that's always been something I've struggled with. So that is a theme that I have seen played out in my life through many soul relationships, but in different ways. And differently, when it comes to just healthcare, my own personal relationships, my relationships with my friends, my relationships with my kids, I've been challenged in this arena in all those relationships. So some of those were contractual lessons, but they're just going to come at you in different ways. So you can have multiple soulmates teaching you the same lesson. It's just going to be coming at you differently. Now, this is a big one. Listen up. This is a big one that people always ask about. Signs you've met a twin flame or a soulmate. Soulmate signs are a deep connection. There's ease in the relationship and mutual growth. It's just one of those times you meet someone and your solar plexus just instantly goes off like, oh, I know them. I know them. It's just a soul awareness. And there's some ease to it. Twin flame signs is there in an intense attraction. There is mirroring. There is personal upheaval, and there is cycles of separation and reunion. Now, again, I just want to make sure that I am reiterating this, and excuse me if I sound like a broken record, but please don't ever excuse any kind of abusive behavior, emotional, physical, otherwise, financial, abuse can come in many different ways. Don't excuse any of that because you're trying to justify, oh, we have a twin flame connection. They are just they're triggering me and I need to heal this. No, abuse is never acceptable. We're talking about mirroring of things just like my soulmate then would mirror to me that I need to stand. They might push my boundaries. They might do something that just reconnects me to my purpose of standing in my truth, being confident and saying what my needs and wants are. So that's the kind of mirror I'm talking about. Now, some common misconceptions is that soulmates are not always romantic. A lot of people think soulmates are romantic. They certainly can be, and it is beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing when I see that soulmate connection in a romantic relationship. It's not always meant to be, um, but they can also be friends, or they can be in our family, or they can be our mentors. There are lots of different soulmates in our lives. And something else, twin flames are not always meant to be together permanently. Rarely do I see twin flames being together permanently. They're just so triggering to each other. They are here to teach us those deep lessons, to really mirror back to us the things that need to be changed. Even without saying something, even without purposely saying, you need to change this. This is what I'm seeing. A twin flame doesn't have to do that. They are a mirror. They're reflecting back to us what we need to change. So when you're in a relationship, I want you to think about that. When you're in a relationship with someone is constantly mirroring back to you what you need to change, that can be a little bit difficult to always be around. That's why you see that back and forth, back and forth. The purpose of that twin flame is to trigger growth. So very rarely do I see twin flames together permanently. Soulmates, I do. Yes, I do. You can, and again, remember, you can have multiple soulmates. There's only one twin flame. Now, as you're navigating these relationships, no matter what it is, if it's a soulmate, if it's a twin flame, embrace the lessons and the love they bring. Anytime if you're in a twin flame relationship, anytime you have a wound that is triggered, healing it brings you to a higher vibration and has you walking in a higher level of unconditional love. It is up to us, free will, how we handle that triggering moment. Do we come at that triggering moment with vengeful thoughts and hate? That's our free will to do so. But I certainly hope you will take the moment and really evaluate, what is this trying to teach us? Soulmates, same thing. Embrace the lessons. They're not quite as in your face and triggering as a twin flame is. And also know that multiple soulmates can be teaching you the same lesson, just in different ways. For twin flames, it's so important to focus on self-healing rather than external union. I have so many people talk about when they've met a soulmate and they just want that person to change. They want them to see things from their point of view. We can't make people believe what we believe. Even if it is obvious to everyone that that person is not vibrating at their higher octave, it is their free will to do so. It is their free will to vibrate at whatever octave they want. It is egoic for us to want to make someone change. We have to focus on healing ourselves, vibrating at that higher level, and trust in the divine timing of these connections. It's huge. So if there's anything you take from this podcast, that is it, is to trust in the divine timing of these connections. Now, in summary, I want you to think about both soulmates and twin flames are so important for spiritual evolution. Understanding their purpose can help us navigate relationships with much more awareness and wisdom. When we understand and take a step back and sit in a point of neutrality and evaluate the data coming off of these relationships, like, what is this relationship trying to teach me? It's also very important if you can see a repeating theme in the lessons you're trying to learn. What is the common thread? Sometimes when we're trying to learn a lesson, it can be the same lesson being thrown at us in different ways, and we don't recognize a common thread. So it's important to sit back. And if you can't do it on your own, find a mentor, a life coach, someone who you feel like is really good at following energy and untangling that information for you. Also, embrace each connection as part of your soul's journey. Some people come into our lives for a long time and they are here to walk this path almost our entire time on this earth to partner with us, and others just come in for little snippets of time. Make sure you're embracing each connection and honoring it as part of your soul's journey. Now, some points I want you to think about. I want you to go back and think about the differences between soulmates and twin flames. Have you experienced that connection yourself? And if you have, think about, journal, what lessons have these relationships taught you? And how can you further take that lesson to a higher octave to further your spiritual growth? Then also, how can you really take time to look at these relationships and instead of looking at ones that maybe didn't fit in your life the way you wanted to, really break them down, honor that lesson, and let it go instead of sitting in the bitterness of it or the feeling vengeful over it. I know it's so easy when we think someone has wronged us, or when we know someone has wronged us, when someone has treated us in a way that we would never think about treating someone else, to maybe drop into the lower octaves and be very like, I would never do that to someone. Why are they behaving that way? Why? It's so important for us to sit with ourselves and say, okay, it doesn't matter the why of it. What lesson are they teaching me? Because that's really the only thing we have control of is our own behavior. And we really want to make sure when these relationships are coming our way and giving us data, that we're taking that data in and figuring out, what lesson am I learning? How can I take this to a higher octave? All right, that's it for today and twin flames and soulmates. I would love to hear from y'all if you have any further questions, further teachings you would like to hear me do. Please send me an email, ChristyGodwin111 at gmail.com. My contact information is in the verbiage of all my podcasts, whether you're watching on YouTube or on podcast outlet. I hope everyone has a wonderful day.